It took us 10 years to get to seven figures. And it was like getting really keen on like who's actually buying our stuff. And then more importantly, who do we want to sell to?
Welcome to today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I'm one of your hosts, David Gilliland, and we have the privilege of having Angela uh, Damiani with us. I apologize. I practiced the name, then I got it wrong. I'm Angela Damiani with us from Newaukee. And Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. And yes, you got it exactly right. If people want to add more consonants to the many vowels that are in my last name.
No, it's fine. And just so people didn't think I mispronounced Milwaukee, Namiaki is, or not Newaukee is the name of your business
It
that you've
is,
that you
yes.
founded. So
New
we're delighted to have you on. Tell us just a little bit about what your business does, so we get a feel.
For sure. So we've had a fun story to our seven-figure journey. Newaukee was started in 2009 here in the city of Milwaukee, really with the purpose of being more like a social organization. Um, our goal was to actually create a new Milwaukee and to help people who are new to the city find one another. And we did that for a couple of years and then decided that, to be honest with you, sort of like a free membership and free events was just sort of like a terrible business model. Um, and that we had maybe learned something. We had a lot of success in like turning out audiences and getting people to engage with our programming. And maybe we could apply what we had learned about what motivated people and how to get them to take action to the problems that our clients had. And so we pivoted to become an engagement agency, which is sort of the new fancy way that marketing firms are calling themselves these days, right? It's not just about like marketing, it's about getting engagement with that audience, getting them to either come and work for you. We do work on the like employer brand side of companies, so building talent pipelines, having people want to come and actually work day in and day out at your company, as well as on the consumer side, want people to engage with your audience so that they buy your stuff, right? um, and we are still based here in Milwaukee, but we work nationally, and that national growth is a part of how we got to our seven-figure journey, as well as really figuring out how to kind of like look out from our own roadmap here in our like little local community and figure out what were some of the challenges we wanted to take on. What did we know that we could do really well for some national clients too?
Well, very cool. I um, I mean, you've already shared one nugget that most of us have figured out now in the seven figure journey is that you don't succeed well there if you don't charge anyone anything. So that was a nugget. Now, but you've learned some others. Um, what else have you learned? I mean, since you've been at this seven figure space, what has helped you to succeed at this spot?
Hmm. I would say, well, getting really clear on who our ideal customer is has been really helpful, right? Who do we really work with? We work with CHROs who are just like tired of being so like reactive to their talent sourcing, right? They want to be more proactive. They want to build a talent community. They want to really like have people know what their brand is well before they might consider applying for a job. And then we work with chief marketing officers who, for whatever reason, want to do something a little different, want to do something in person, want to do something that really helps to build a customer community, kind of in the same parallel before that business is really able to make a sale. Typically, the marketing teams we work with, maybe they do have like a B2C product or service, but there's like a longer tail for their sale, right? Like think like a bank. Like you don't just
Yeah,
switch your
yeah.
bank overnight. It's not
Or
something
like my own
you roll
business.
up. You know what I mean? Like on Instagram and interested purpose. So when people come to us, it's usually that they have a long time of getting to know their customers beforehand, and we help to design ways to really engage that, build a relationship with folks for a while before that sale is made.
Oh,
Um,
that's neat.
and
I
so, I didn't, what I just said to you, those two buyers, CHRO, CMO, I don't know that I could have articulated that in our first 5 years or maybe in our first 10 which really it took us 10 years to get to seven figures. And it was like getting really keen on like who's actually buying our stuff. And then more importantly, who do we want to sell to? Because
Yeah.
we've had a lot of other customers. I don't want to bag on anyone specifically, but we've worked with a lot of people in 15 years, and not all of them were a great fit for us, right? For a variety of reasons. Um, Even the idea of a CMO, a lot of organizations have them, but if they have a super robust marketing team, um, we just sort of like get in the way of each other, right? Like typically the folks we work with are maybe more of a mid-sized company that have a smaller team, less than five people. And so really we're like added capacity. We're sitting on the same side of the table as that organization and really helping them to like bring their vision to life. Um, and so that took a long time. I'll be honest with you, maybe it's something I could have articulated. It wasn't something I felt confident in choosing. I felt
Yeah.
like in order for us to grow, I needed to not be picky about who wanted to work with us, um, because any money is good money, right?
Because it was revenue, right? Like,
Revenue. It was
like it was
revenue.
revenue.
And even
And,
like, crappy little teeny projects that I was like, oh, this is just going to be a distraction or like soak up all of our capacity and not, I know it's not really going to grow anywhere. You feel like, well, I mean, but they want to work with us. So, and we've
yeah.
been
Or
really, really blessed, David. Like, I will say this, really blessed with renewals. We've been really blessed with referrals. And most of our work, let me think for 1 second. Most of our work that we're working on today was inbound. Is that true? I want to say over 90% of the work that we're doing in 2024 was an inbound request. It was not something where we don't have like a big sales team, you know what I mean, or like do a bunch of outbound marketing for our agency. And so we're finally at a point where we can be a little choosy about what do we want to take, you know what I mean, next? What do we want to do next? What do we find like creatively inspiring? And this is another nugget for you. As an agency, you have churn with your staff, right? Like
mhm.
it's a small team. There's only 10 of us. So there's only so many places you can go and grow. Um, but we have incredible tenure with our team members. One woman has been with us for 10 of the 15 years, which is like unheard
Wow.
of in the agency world. And what I have come to realize is a problem I needed to solve for really like in the last 18 months is most people have been in their seats for at least 3 years, which is great, right? They have all the institutional knowledge. They really know how to work. They know how to interact with our clients. Um, but they get bored, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
how do we take on new work that's like inspiring for them, because what we do is a very creative fun thing, and so I have very creative fun employees, but they want to be pushing the boundaries too, and to have the sort of like let's rinse and repeat and do whatever we did in 2023.
Just
Oh, that's
doesn't
the
work.
first way to have people be like, you know what, I'm looking for my next gig. I want
Yep.
something that's gonna like push me to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's you're speaking to this like innate human need to grow, to progress,
Hmm.
and yet the business is like, oh, but you were a really good cog
You are
in that
so good at
system.
this, and the client loves you. Can you just do it again and
Can't you
again and
stay
again?
forever this way? It's like holding my 4-year-old and saying, "Do you have to change? Couldn't you
Mhm.
just stay at this spot?" Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's that feeling. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we get it. And they're finally really productive. Like we're really making profits now. This is cooking. Are you sure you want to shift?
Uh-huh.
And they need to.
And they need to.
Absolutely need to. It's a challenge in there. So let me just I'm gonna pull these two things. I want to dig just a little deeper before I go into the other part, which is you said on one of your nuggets there you shared, you talked about it took me 5, maybe 10 years to get tight around my market, this ideal customer profile, who I should serve. Um, and not just like these businesses, but also this kind of person, right? And so we got we got clearer. Uh, there's some attitudes we don't work well with. There's others that we do, right? And so it took a while to get there, and it wasn't easy. And I want to say it was more than just because we could afford to be picky. No, your processes now can be built to be fantastic for that group. And that's a real key for us. When you cross the $1 million threshold, if we don't get clear, because the work up until then was it was an experiment, meaning chase any revenue that was out there. Let's find the best revenue and then let's kind of zone in. You did all the right things for those 5, 10 years. That needed to happen. Then we start honing in, and there was a bit of a process. Can we just talk a little bit about it? How how did you start to feel like it's okay? I can say no to that revenue? Or was it okay, that this kind of revenue with these kinds of customers, this is just so much nicer. And you just started pour more energy into that and the others went away? Or did you make a hard decision? I've heard different ways. What was your experience like?
I want to tell you that we were like so methodical about it. I'm trying to think.
It
So
it was
one
just
thing is
organic then.
like a squeaky wheel. You know what I mean? Like literally
Yeah.
having my team lament, like, oh, this is like such a time suck. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
was meant to be like a little quickie kind of 5-figure project, and it's like taking everything from me. You know what I mean? To like
Yeah.
actually execute it because they want 1,000 change orders, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So, again, I have to balance. I can't promise my team. I always say this. I can't promise them like unending rainbows and smiles. Like the goal is not that you're going to be like
We're
happy
working still. We're still
every
working.
moment of the day, but I don't want you to be chronically unhappy because that's
Yeah.
not good. It's a service business. Like there is no business if I don't have people to provide the service, you
Yeah.
know. Um so that I think that was maybe like it's always a leading indicator for me is like, when is this just people like needing a space to vent, and when is it becoming a chronic thing? The other thing that we started doing, oh, maybe was it this 5 years ago mark, at the 10-year point, we kept getting folks who would come to us with half an idea and say, can you just build this one thing? I don't need you to do any of the other stuff around it. I don't need you to make a marketing plan for it. I don't need you to, you know what I mean? Just do this one little piece. And again, because I felt like any revenue was good revenue, I would say, sure, that sounds great. And about 5 years ago, we built what I call a design process, where when someone comes in with the kernel of an idea, before we say yes, we say, okay, well, listen, let's just like take a beat. Let's run you through this process. First, we're going to do like a bit of discovery. Then we're going to co-design a solution for what you're saying your actual like engagement issue is. And then if you want to stop with us, you can have like the template to go and build whatever it is we've decided, or we could come out and be like a deployment partner for you. And that has been game changing for a couple
Mhm.
of reasons. One is most clients have like shiny object syndrome. Like they see the like sparkly thing and they're like, I just want that. I don't want to change any of the systems I have. I just want a new outcome. And the process that we take people through, A, helps them get really clear on like, but why? Why do you want this new form of engagement with this audience? You know what I mean? Like, what's the core problem you're actually solving for? Because maybe we do need to do the shiny thing, but maybe not. Maybe there's other like systems or protocols or processes that we need to fix in order for that end to come out. Secondarily, that co-designing that happens helps them get really bought in, like
Yeah.
really bought in. That we're not talking about being hired to do a tactic. We're talking about going after like real business imperatives that have multiple strategies to them, and it helps us get like really, like I said, be on the same side of the table as our client, not be serving them from the other side of the table. Um, and so that, I think, there are red flags when we go through that process because we've pumped the brakes and said, like, let's do this together, that are very easy for me to see in the early days. Like, oh, this is someone we're delivering a recommendation report to, and like saying, this was such a pleasure, like, good luck with where you need to go. And way before we get like deep in the weeds of deploying whatever those strategies are, and then feel like, oh no, how do we get
Yeah.
back here again? And so that protocol has been helpful for us, both in like landing and expanding new work and getting really like, having what we do provide true ROI for our clients, but then also in like weeding out what feels like a very excited, like, oh, it's new, it's a new, you know what I mean, thing, and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
having like a beat to say like, but are we a good fit for this? Is this who you should be working with? You know what I mean? That
I
kind of thing.
I love those. So, I mean, summarize then first in the getting clear about your target customer, which has been a key for your growth and sanity at this phase in business,
Hmm.
has was first there's some squeaky wheels going on. Our team is sending signals. You're sending me business that I hate doing and I'm not happy about it. Right. So we're getting some signals. And second, you determined a way that you're like, when we go through this process, we deliver the best results. And in services, that's really what the team wants. They want people who say, you hit a grand slam for me. This
Hmm.
was awesome.
Hmm.
And so you found a process. Within that process, it's helped to filter out both to land and expand current customers and prospects, but also to say, nope, we thought that they came to buy a simple Honda from us, but this one was looking for a rickshaw and
Yeah,
this one wanted a 747. And neither one of those do we deliver, right?
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Hmm.
Thank you. I think I know that there are nuggets in there and pieces that people can pull and implement to their business now and improve because of it. Let's shift some gears. You're at a spot now. You're hitting 10 employees, and you know what are you facing now? Sometimes there's not as much joy the bigger you get.
Hmm. Well, it's an interesting moment in time because my business partner of 15 years decided he was done in December. And so, you know, we split up amicably. And I understood. I actually like could empathize with this idea. Like 15 years is a long time and he wanted to like move on and do other things. Um, but it made me think like, oh wow, I've been doing this for 15 years. Am I done? Like, do I
Yeah,
feel ready? You know what I mean? Like to kind of like cash in or figure out, you know what I mean, what a next thing would be. And I'm not. I still feel like Newaukee is the best platform for me to be creatively expressed. You know what I mean?
nice.
I
Yeah,
really love the team we have right now. I love the dynamic. I feel very inspired when we're together. They're all so brilliant. Um, so, I don't personally have any like dire like challenges. And when we were talking about this, like preparing, like what challenges am I facing at this moment, it feels like no, we're in a moment of symbiosis, which is good. I think the thing I've learned doing this for so long is that this is a sweet spot, but it doesn't last, right?
mm,
Like
yeah,
something else will happen. There's
yeah,
never, you know what I mean, there's the good thing about being like low is that your high could be like a ride around the corner, but the highs don't last either. um and so being really like mindful of that, again, whether that's like team attrition, right, because people don't stay at agencies for a long time, or it's client attrition that happens all the time. I mean, even when we do everything perfectly right, like you know there's a change of a point of contact, a business for whatever reason has some sort of market constriction, budgets need to be put on pause, like all of those things are real and could happen at any point. And I feel like I just have my eyes open and sort of, I don't know, I'm scanning the perimeter for like what's the next thing, but I don't feel upset anymore. Like I think in my early days of entrepreneurship, I would really, really feel the highs and I would really take the lows, you know what I mean, like to
yeah,
heart.
yeah.
And
Oh,
something
so
about,
tied to identity in many ways, which you
yeah,
don't want it to be,
maybe my
but
like
yeah,
adrenaline addiction has worn off or something over time because I just take it as new information. Like, okay, this is new information. Now, what are we gonna do with it? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, how is this gonna like rearrange the puzzle pieces for us? Um, but even that, the start. I've also noticed that I'm like very. I very much like the very beginning. I like the very beginning of a business. This is probably why I've started a number of other businesses and I have my hands in them as well, because the beginning is the most like satisfying for me. It's why I don't spend a ton of time. I don't manage any accounts, but I do get involved in that design, like kind of strategy, like
yeah.
this
Because
the
it's the
startup.
beginning for them.
Yeah, the starting. You know what I mean? Part when the like the sky is as wide and blue as it can be. how can we like start to fill it in?
Yeah, and there's a thing where when we get to a certain size, we feel like we've kind of optimized the system we built.
Mm-hmm.
And and there may be a worry of rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you talked about with the team members, like, huh, they want to grow sometimes, right? they, I can't believe it. Like, will they leave me to go off to go somewhere else because they don't want to just do the same job they've always done? I think we talked about a little before. Uh, that could be a challenge. Our our business can be in the same light. So for the listeners, you were feeling like, I don't know that I want to grow my team size. I'd rather just keep it.
Mm-hmm.
What could we do just staying here? Because it's nice where it's at. Solid team. They're doing solid work. Why change it? We know that growth will change it, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, we have been bigger, right? Like we've gone up to 15. And you
Yeah.
think this is still a micro organization, all things considered. The difference between 10 and 15. Most people
No,
hear
but it felt different.
what does that matter? Well, the 15 is like there's layers to it, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
managers with 15.
Uh-huh.
In a way that 10 doesn't need that as much. You could have specialists, you know what I mean, in a certain
Yeah.
area, or subject matter experts. I think this goes back a little bit to your question prior to this. I feel really content in this moment, but it's because I've embraced the idea that this is a lifestyle business. And there's never going to be here when I'm like, no, let's make less money than we did last year. Like there will always be like the hope that we're trending in the right direction. But I like what it feels like to work and interact with the people that I employ. You know what I mean? I like
Yeah.
what it feels like to be in the mix of a project. Like I still, as much as I like to own this business, I still feel like a practitioner in a lot of ways. And to be able to like dabble in that and still feel close to the work, close to the industry, that is very gratifying for me.
Yeah.
And I don't, and this is maybe a challenge, I don't like to manage people. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't we don't truly have like a holacracy, but we spend a lot of time talking about holacracy in our onboarding, and that's sort of like the North Star, that like people would have enough autonomy to sort of like pull together who they need for each team and to sort of like be the lead of whatever that's project or the stint of that project might need to be without having to have this like pecking order.
Yeah.
And maybe this is like I never had a chance to work in corporate America, but we work with a lot of corporate clients.
And
And
you
so
see
like,
the problems and
whew,
what it
the like
generates.
layers of approvals and the number of people who I don't know what their job is, like to sit around and wait for someone else to give them an answer. That feels
Yeah.
so soul sucking. Like I don't think I would survive for one day. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather have us all be with our hands dirty in some way in and close to the work. I think it makes us better, you know what I mean, at the work. And so I know I have two lieutenants. I'll just say this. I have two lieutenants who have been grooming to one day. They actually have a limited partnership. So one day they maybe even own a more significant portion of the business and would be able to operate it. I have told them that, like, if they so choose, you know what I mean, to grow 200 people or 1,000 people, that would be within their own purview to do it. But while I'm at the helm, this is the life I want to live. This is the experience I want to have when I go to work. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's been intentionally restricted.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important for every business owner to stop first and say, why? What does how is this business supposed to serve me?
Hmm.
And if we're not clear about that, then it can run and ruin our lives,
Oh, it could
right?
take over everything. I mean,
Absolutely.
I could spend 24 hours a day on it. It never ends.
Yeah.
I laugh every week because yeah, to show you the session for my week. I make a to-do list for the week. I actually print it. I made it on Canva.
Hmm.
And every week, like I'm doing pretty good for Wednesday, right? Like there's a lot of things ticked off, done.
Yeah.
It's such a farce to go through this exercise and make this list every week because it's never like, oh, I'm ahead. Now next week there's nothing to do. Like,
Nope.
it's not, you know what I mean? It's so silly. There's always something to do. There's always
Yeah.
something to do. But, like, you see me smiling. I actually love it. I love
Yeah, you're happy about the things you're doing and
yeah.
where you're doing it right now.
Mhm.
Here's where the challenges start to come. And let's just throw them out there. So you get a team member who actually does want to lead and try out new things and stretch themselves, and they're highly talented. But in your organization, they've been told it's not going to happen while I'm around. And they get anxious and they decide to leave because we didn't give them a chance to grow and learn.
Mhm.
That's potential challenge.
That
Um,
happens. So, I have had something, as a sidestep to that happen. So one individual came to me at the end of last year and said, "We have had a couple of these, like, brand activation projects." And they said, I know I'm junior, but I'd like to one day be the head of brand acts." And I said, "Well, I know we've done these things, but it's not really like on our service menu. It's been like because the client asked, you know what I mean? One of those things that are
yeah,
just like
yeah, yeah,
adjacent to what we're doing so we can accommodate." And they said, "If do you think if I take a couple of these courses and any of the new ones that come on, you give them to me, I can really like build out my skill set in this way that I could like lead this. I could be this could be the like the division lead
yeah.
this going forward." And I said, "I mean, yes, if that's like where you want to go, comma, you still have to do the other things that you know what I mean? I need you to do in between because I don't have like a long queue of potential clients that want this service from us.
That's right.
If you feel like you can lead it, I'll add it to our service menu and have it be something that we publicly talk about and celebrate. And let's see, you know what I mean? Like where it goes and how it grows." And so, in that way, I feel like our service offering has evolved over 15 years based on the people we have on the team who have the talent to offer it. And I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind like outgrowing a service. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
we no longer have the team members who are willing to do it. Um, I think that's okay because otherwise, you know what I mean? I also feel like it is in some ways like us continuing to find, product market fit
yeah,
with
yeah.
buying
Always
from
moving to
us.
where the real need
But the
really
risk
is.
of
And
someone like the inverse could happen. We could have a huge demand for brand X and we could have no one who wants to do it. And then I would have to have people move on. And that is horrifying. I mean, it's just the worst when that has to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Um, what I appreciated that you showed the difference as you talked with and you shared that when we went to 15, for some reason it was
Mhm.
it was different and it wasn't as connected. And a fear that we could become like the corporate
Mhm.
structures that we see out there. Uh, I personally stand behind and by anyone who wants to continue a true lifestyle business and run with that. And great, embrace it and do that. Our listeners are more driven on the growth side, and so I'm going to give just a few insights for those who want to take a next step. You don't have to look like the others.
Mm.
First of all, you can keep people fully able to make decisions without running things up the ladder, even as you grow. But right at 10, between 8 and 12, kind of depending on how many people are leading with you, if you had a partner, for instance, right about 8 to 10, 12, if you don't shift gears in a new way of leading, you start to find that you're the bottleneck for so many things,
That is true.
right?
That is
And
true. And
and
I'm
it's
I'm reflecting on this actually because I told you 5 years ago is when we hit our seven figures. 5 years ago is also when my daughter was born. And I
yeah,
feel like when my son was born, I was still in the weeds of everything and like way too involved. But something about having two and having two at like the right at the beginning of the pandemic when it was just like too much. It's like I broke. Like whatever control freak type A like
had to give
part
it
of
up,
me
didn't you?
that needed to like have a final say, it just it just finally gave way.
Yeah,
um in a way that like I'm so grateful now that I ran out of capacity. Like I had been fine to sort of like keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and then like a, little Joe was like the straw that broke
Well,
everything.
well, you could thank Joe then, because that mindset shift is the first thing you have to shift.
Mhm.
When you get to that size, it's that I have to let go
Mhm.
and I have to trust. Now, there's better ways of doing that than others. I don't mean abdicate. I
Oh,
mean
yeah, I don't
trust.
think having, like, a postpartum crisis is, like, the number one, like, recommendation for your listeners. No,
No,
but, whatever it takes to get there.
whatever it takes to get there. That mindset shift is really key. It it's kind of like you were going on one gear and you
Mhm.
had maxed that gear out.
That's exactly right.
And you just need to shift gears so the same energy gets more output.
Mhm.
You'll find that if you choose to move from this point, and the key is, how do I get the vision, just like you do with your customers? How do we co-create a vision that they can really buy into? And you do it with your team, right? If we co-create that, their fingerprints are all over on it. They see it, they get it, they start making the changes, they start owning it. Anything they want to own, we help them figure out how to do it, right?
Mhm.
So co-create that vision with them. It's very much the way you talk about with your team,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Co-create that, then help them begin to dream and set those visions with their teams and the people they work with. But that's a first thing. Get the vision out of the mind and heart of your mind and heart, and out of the leaders and into the hearts and minds of everybody, so that we've all kind of got that. We're like, oh, we all see what we're after. Then let's just put a system into place that we can collectively choose the priority.
Right.
So the vision does have a goal. We want to go and do this, have this stretch. That could be more people, it could be more revenue, it could be more interesting work, it could be whatever, right? But a stretch goal that we're all like, that's right in line with what we most care about. Once they pick that, then to collectively come up with the priorities. And so that we don't do it in every single meeting we're in and we just have this mess of meetings, just set certain time aside once a quarter for big dreaming and big plans and big priorities, and then regular check ins that we're executing on the priority we chose. We saw 20 options, but we picked one. And we're going to go do that one. And everyone can then do their day job and still be a part of doing really cool creation work,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is a lot of fun. That shift alone, with a few little touch ins, where if you need another layer, I don't say management on this one. I let their numbers manage them, that they've
Mm.
helped create with me where their targets are. My job, or the leader that I put in place there with my team, their job is to only bring resources, cheer them on, help them achieve the numbers they wanted. So it's not approval for things, it's not holding a thumb on them. It's more help so they can soar.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about how, most of an org chart is like a little people at the top and then lots at the bottom. What you're
Yeah,
describing is actually inverted,
it's
right?
flipping
It's
it.
like people
That's
like
right.
holding up. Yeah, that
That's
makes
right.
sense.
Or our job becomes that. It's like the shift of going from a parent to a grandparent,
Yes. Uh-huh.
where we had our hands in the middle of it. We're doing all this and we're engaged. And then they get to a point that they want to parent, they want to do stuff. And if we keep meddling in that too
Mhm.
closely, they rebel and they're gone. So
Mhm.
instead, how do we influence? How do we keep the culture? How do we keep this is our way in the community and the resources to really help them soar and fly? It's a shift. It's a
Right.
shift in what we do and how we add value. And and it can be a delightful one
Mm.
where we learn how to create so many other superheroes out there that are doing great things. We're not superhero anymore. We're not touching anything. They are. But we're creating them. And
Yeah.
that becomes our new treasure, the new dopamine that we get hit, right? When we have the success, it's like, did you see what they did with their team? That's
Exactly.
so cool.
Yeah,
Look what
watching
they've
their own
become.
growth. Yeah, their own,
That,
like, expression. Yeah, I
and
can see
so a mental shift first, then some of the way we organize and do that work and some skills along that path, that will help you triple in size.
that. Mm.
And you'll get to around 30 people and you're going to think, I don't want to go beyond this because it gets messy.
Mhm.
And it does unless you shift again. There's a new
Yeah.
shift. And so we could keep talking about there's these about every time you triple in size, if you don't fundamentally shift the way you see it, you'll start trying to control. You start trying to do this downward pressure again. And how do I manage all of it? And it's too much and it's not joyful. If you don't shift, it becomes ugly. If you do, now you've got how many people that are having an amazing experience in this creative environment?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very rewarding thing when we make the shifts along the way. Without it, life stinks. With it, life gets really nice. Profits also follow it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd find you'll be like, oh, and when it's going well and we've organized that well and we're leading right, the profits grow instead of shrinking, which is what happens when you grow. Your profit margins actually shrink if you don't shift gears. You run out of energy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're a bottleneck for too much. So too many resources are waiting in the wings for
Mm-hmm.
things to happen.
That makes a
So
lot of
anyway,
sense.
maybe a few pieces could be useful, but it sounds like you're in a great place. So if someone wants to get in touch with Angela and her team at Newaukee, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, our website is Newaukee.com. You can always reach out to me via email. I'm a zero inbox kind of girl, so I will get to
Well,
you
you stay on top of it.
eventually. I do. Yeah, it's just Angela at Newaukee.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, Angela Damiani.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. And Angela, thank you again for
Oh,
being
I
a guest on
appreciate
our
it.
show
This has
today.
been really fun, and I appreciate your feedback. Honestly, very, very helpful.
Yeah, we loved having you on. For all of those listening in, I hope you'll share, like, do all the things to make this episode more available to all the other seven figure business owners out there. Keep striving, keep learning, keep growing, and keep caring. Until next time.